So, we shall move on, a complete change of pace again, to Detroit, Scott.
Yes, just to keep the comedy rolling. Yes, Detroit, with recent world events showing that the once mooted post-racial worldview is not, in fact, coming to pass anytime soon. Detroit's release last year felt timely amidst the Black Lives Matter movement, and, well, sadly, it's just as topical a year later, even with Catherine Bigelow's film centering on the Algiers motel incident in the middle of 1967's wave of race riots. The actual historical record of the events is not clear, so there is a degree of interpretation here, but I don't think there's much disputing that the white police officers grotesquely abused their power, leading to the deaths of 3 black men and the violent assault of 9 other people. So, starting with describing the boiling point that led to the riots, the raid of a party for returning black Vietnam veterans, we shift to people caught up in the turmoil of the situation. The lead singer of an R&B group, Larry Reid, and his friend Fred Temple, played by Algie Smith and Jacob Latimore, are cut off from their route home after the concert is cancelled, and they rent a room at the Algiers motel. They meet the other patrons, and at one point are threatened with what turns out to only be a starter's pistol by asshat Carl Cooper, played by Jason Mitchell, in what I believe at the time was termed a prank. These are now called social experiments, or being a dickhole. Meanwhile, security guard Melvin Dismukes, played by John Boyega, is close by, attempting to moderate the responses of the mobilised National Guard, at which point Cooper makes the frankly idiotic decision to take a few shots out of the window as an ill-advised empowerment prank / act of dickholery. The National Guardsmen and the police respond quickly, with Dismukes along still trying to prevent unneeded death. This doesn't go too well, as the police are barbarians. Ringleader Philip Krause, played by Will Poulter, who we've already been introduced to as he shoots and kills a fleeing unarmed subject in the back, rounds up the guests and starts to use what I believe we refer to these days as enhanced interrogation techniques to find out who has the gun and who is shooting at them, and things increasingly get out of hand as no answers are forthcoming. Things go entirely off the rails when, in a fun game of mock execution, Nolan tells the rookie cop about the mock part of it, leading to the start of the tragic outcomes mentioned before. Now, this film rounds off with a look at the devastated lives of the surviving victims and the victims' families, and they search for justice that's entirely thwarted by a legal system tilted against them. The cast are uniformly excellent, Will Poulter being particularly hateful in his role, and John Boyega showing chops at the Star Wars nonsense doesn't give him any room to demonstrate, and overall it's just a great ensemble performance. Script is powerful and the direction matches that, building moments of great tension. Now, for all the critical acclaim that this gathered, which I agree with, were that not entirely obvious, this underperformed at the box office, which is a shame, as this is almost objectively a good film. It really does have all the characteristics of one. It is, however, I suppose, a hard sell for a fun Friday night at the cinema. It's not possible to watch this set aside from its politics, and I suppose I understand why in our current situation, more politics is not something most people want to countenance, particularly when every morning we must wake up and check that the supposed leader of the free world hasn't tweeted out to start World War III and instead has just picked a meaningless fight with a pop star, because that's the world we live in now. Amongst the potential white audience for this film, which I think I can speak for 100% of due to our shared skin colour, there's most likely a reluctance to face up to the consequences of the institutional racism the past few hundred years of colonialism and slavery has wound up with. I don't mean that particularly pejoratively. I do believe that outside, I assume, of white supremacist circles, most people do not believe they hold any racist views, just as they all think that slavery is a bad thing, but examining the consequences of this history is not something a lot of us want to do, especially for fun. Again, I get it. If you're a millennial on a 0 hours minimum wage contract in a Western world where wealth inequality is skyrocketing and we're expected to be less well off than the generation before us, it feels like an insult to be told that you're still benefiting from this miserable chapter in human history. Yet we are. So it's surely incumbent on us to examine this, and Detroit provides a visceral way to feel just slightly a small portion of this legacy's toll on African Americans in a way that academic reports cannot. But that's making a case for Detroit as uncomfortable homework, when, assuming that you can make your peace with the inherent politics from which it stems, this is an exceptionally taut thriller that keeps you on the metaphorical edge of your seat. My actual arse was quite far to the back of the sofa, but nonetheless, it was a very tense, superbly acted and framed film. The weight of history perhaps precludes this from being described as enjoyable. Maybe if this was fictional characters in a fictional situation, it might actually be easier to watch, but with these folks being real, well, the stakes involved makes this much scarier than any horror movie I've seen of late. An excellent film, and I'd have put it in my running for best film of 2017 had I got to it in time. Very good indeed.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add. I think I didn't find it quite as rewarding as you did. For me, this is like a 4 out of 5 film. It seems like it's a 5 out of 5.
Yes.
Just as a kind of a general idea of where we are with it, I think. Yeah, it's a very difficult watch.
Yeah.
I would like to know quite how much it jives with reality, because it's one of those films where the horrible things that are happening are so extreme, it seems like there is not a single person in the film, at least on the police and law enforcement side, not an absolute scumbag. It feels like it's 100% of them. And that just strikes me as, like, okay, there's institutional racism, one thing, but it seems like every single person involved, more or less, in any level, is just this horrible, hateful, racist scumbag. And it feels a bit too much, so I don't know whether that's kind of been overplayed or, in fact, things really were that bad. But it's one of those infuriating films to watch. You just seething with impotent rage at the fact that these despicable excuses for human beings are not only there, they are put in positions of authority where they can abuse that authority with little to no consequence, apparently. I mean, it starts off with that despicable racist number one, when he shoots that guy who's running away from him, she mentioned, Scott, and the detective in charge says, yes, I'm recommending murder charges for you, but until then, go out and just go and do what you were doing. Just from that mind-boggling place to begin with. So there's no checks and balances here at all, is there? There's no measures involved to actually stop things going wrong, because you're pretty sure he just murdered someone, but so it's fine to go back to work. Crazy. Yeah, there's some horrendously tense scenes in it. And you think back now and think about how much of this film is just a bunch of people pressed against a wall.
Yeah.
How much incredible tension and drama comes out of people standing against a wall. I mean, I don't think it's as successful tension-wise as some of Catherine Bigelow's other films, The Hurt Locker in particular. But it's, certainly a compelling film, very well made. I don't have a lot more to say, really, other than that. The only issue I had with the actor is I'm not really sure that I like John Boyega a lot. I don't know if some of that is a hangover from the Star Wars films, but I don't know, he's the one person for me that didn't seem to be quite of the same magnitude as anybody else in the film. I don't know if I'm being unfair, or maybe it's just, sometimes you don't particularly like an actor, so you can never really buy them. Maybe it's that, I don't know. Everybody else is really good, and unfortunately for the people with the lighter skin tone in that film, they do a particularly successful job of making themselves exceptionally hateable.
Yeah.
To the point where I'd be quite worried about them having that run over into their real life, because, oh boy, do they do a good job of being evil. Yeah.
I was thinking it's a long way from Son of Rambo, isn't it, for Will Poulter?
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's definitely recommended, though. Not an easy watch by any means. This is not light fare at all.
Yeah.
You probably picked up on that, with the whole murder and torture thing, but
yeah.
It does have the problem too of being based on a real story, and so the ending, it's not rewarding.
Yeah, what was Obama saying? The arc of the universe is long and tends towards justice, and I'm not quite sure that works. Certainly not in this instance, anyway.
And I mean, this was made to be timed with the 40th anniversary of those riots. But again, like Black Klansman, it's massively timely. It was like, you know what? Things, in many ways, haven't really changed all that much.
Yeah.
40 years later, you think things should be massively improved. Yeah, not so much.
Yeah.
Not for a lot of people.